Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Nnedi. Today I'm going to do the last of the 2017 BookTube SFF Award Babble topics. This one is SFF with people of color as characters, or the authors are people of color. And I have chosen to go with authors of color, and I have a massive list. I'm just going to run through my recommendations, the books I really enjoyed by authors of color. So I'm not going to go into great depth on what the books are about. Some of these are going to be books, and some of them I will also mention short fiction for. First up is Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, and all the other short fiction that Ted Chiang has written that hasn't been collected in a book yet. I'm still waiting for another collection to come out. I'm sure he has enough stories for at least one other story collection. Hasn't happened yet. I love Ted Chiang's short fiction. He only writes short fiction, and he kind of has a reputation of being one of the few very successful SFF authors who has made a reputation just by publishing short fiction. I don't think he'll ever write a novel. I'm not sure that I want him to write a novel. I just want a story every couple of years from him. This collection has had a popularity resurgence in the last year or so because the movie Arrival is adapted from the title story, Story of Your Life. I think that is one of the best stories in this collection, and the movie is a very good adaptation of it. I mean, things are changed, but I think it keeps the heart and the message of the story, and I was absolutely thrilled by it. I tend to be pretty skeptical about movie or TV adaptations of works that I love in print, but Arrival was a good one. And if you like the movie, I highly recommend that you read all the stories in this collection. Octavia Butler has to be on this list. I think I've read about half of her novels, and the two by her that I would recommend are Parable of the Sower, which is the first of the two Earthseed books that was planned to be a trilogy. So if you read the first book and the second book, there really isn't an end. There's a heavily implied third or fourth part in there. But Parable of the Sower is a really apocalyptic dystopia. It is dark and violent, but exceptionally well written. So worth reading. And Parable of the Talents, the second book, is also worth reading, but it was a bit too dark for me. I also recommend Dawn. It's the first book in the Xenogenesis series and is more overt science fiction than Parable of the Sower is, because it does involve like first contact with an alien species. I think pretty much all of Butler's work that I have read so far has challenged me where gender dynamics and such are concerned, but I think that those things are elements that Butler thought very hard about and had her own definite opinions on. I don't have to agree with her on everything. Sometimes her fiction makes me very uncomfortable, but I think that is one of the reasons why it's worth reading. Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho. I believe that Cho is a Malaysian author, and Sorcerer to the Crown is like a Regency era fantasy, kind of in the vein of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, but don't heavily compare them too much. I thought it was an extremely enjoyable story and has a romance in it that I am actually down with. Another author on here, kind of like Ted Chiang, who has made a real reputation with her short fiction, is Liat Debard, who I believe is Vietnamese, and she lives in France. I particularly want to recommend her Shuya series of short stories. It also has a novella in that universe, which I read recently, called On a Red Station Drifting, which I would really highly recommend if you want to try out her stories. I'm pretty sure that all of the Shuya stories are standalones. You can just go read whichever one you want to. They're not super interconnected, or at least I haven't noticed that they are. But On a Red Station Drifting is a longer work, and if you like ancillary justice or Anne Leckie's style in those books, there's something about On a Red Station Drifting that reminds me of that. One of the big African-American names in science fiction and fantasy is, of course, Samuel R. Delany. I have read quite a few of his novels at this point, and I have really enjoyed them. I think that he is an amazing author with so many cool ideas and a very intellectual approach to SFF. In particular, I'm going to recommend two of his earliest science fiction novels, Nova and Babbles 17. They are going to be kind of dated because they're from the 60s, but they are very good and some of the best old science fiction that I have read. On top of these two novels, I would also recommend Empire Star, which is, I believe, a novella, and it was reprinted in People of Color Destroy Science Fiction, the special Lightspeed issue, which you can pick up and read that story, as well as a longer short fiction piece by Octavia Butler. They're both well worth reading. An author that I discovered this year is Toyo Fuji. I have read his two novels that have been published in English. The first one is Gene Mapper. It has to do with genetics and investigating the contamination of a genetically modified crop, and it was really good. Good hard SF, and it is a shorter novel. My favorite thing by him is Orbital Cloud. I read that a couple months ago. I did a full review on it, just gushing about it. It's one of my favorite books of 2017, and I highly recommend it if you are into orbital mechanics, satellites, the International Space Station, the internet age, and all of that jazz. N.K. Jemison, the 5th season, is the book that I think has really catapulted her to a wider audience. It won the Hugo Award last year. I, of course, recommend this book and the sequel, The Obelisk Gate. I'm really anticipating the 3rd book. This is some really, really intense dystopic fantasy. It has also kind of a science fiction edge to it that I really enjoy. Jemison has definitely been inspired by real geology and catastrophes and stuff, and it makes a lot of sense. I also personally really like Jemison's debut novel, The 100,000 Kingdoms. It is the first book in her first trilogy, and it has kind of a god-human romance thing in it that I really liked, but I understand is not everybody's cup of tea. I haven't been mentioning Nine Fox Gambit by Yoon Ha Lee, even in a lot of the Babble topics where it should come up and such, because I know everybody's talking about it. It is nominated for the BooktubeSFF Awards right now. A lot of people are reading it or have read it, but yeah, it's really good, and I just want to mention it here to say that I loved the book too. I should really reread it because the sequel is coming out in probably just a couple of weeks actually, and I don't think I understood it enough the first time around. It is a challenging book. It's got some crazy science stuff in it that doesn't make a lot of sense, and I assume that a lot of this is because Yoon Ha Lee is a mathematician, and I think a lot of the inspirations for this book are like theoretical mathematics and stuff that goes way over my head. This is probably a book where it's easier to understand if you treat the science like magic, which I am fine with doing, but like I said, I think I should reread it, and if you haven't read it for whatever reason, I think it is worth a shot. Next up are a couple of books that I haven't mentioned in a really long time, but the authors are people of color, and I think they deserve a mention here. The first is Redemption in Indigo by Karen Lord, who is an author I've always intended to read more by. She's got a couple of other novels that have been on my to-read list for ages, but Redemption in Indigo is the only thing I've read by her, and it's a very different book from any of the other things on this list today. Redemption in Indigo is kind of a retelling of an African myth, I think, about a woman who gets involved with the gods because she has an implement or whatever that one of the gods lost or something. I really enjoyed it because I liked the style and tone in which it was written. It was very much a fable, and I think kind of breaking the fourth wall with the narrator and everything. I loved it, though I think that is a particular kind of storytelling that not everybody likes, but it felt like it really suited the retelling of a fable that it's doing. So one that I definitely recommend. The other one that I want to recommend that I haven't mentioned in so long is Nexus by Ramez Nam. I think the reason why I haven't mentioned this book and the series very much is because I thought the last book in the series, Apex, was terrible. Like, a truly badly edited book. But the first book and the second book are really great. This is like a techno thriller. It is violent. The kind of thing where it's incredibly readable, but when you finish the book, you really need a palate cleanser and to wait for the next one before you can like take that on. But I really enjoyed Nexus. Ramez Nam hit on some really great ideas, I think, with nanotechnology and running software in the brain, and I loved the ideas, and it has a lot of characters, lots of switching POVs and everything, and it's incredibly international and diverse, and I would recommend it, even though the end of the series I think isn't so great. Other people disagree with me on that and think it's a really good novel. So maybe give that one a try. I have two final authors to hit on, and the books by them I've enjoyed the most. No surprise, Nnedi Okorafor. I really enjoyed her works. So I have three things that I own by her that I have enjoyed completely. The first one is Binti, which many people know about. I really love this novella. I really like the sequel as well. I'm waiting for the third installment. The Book of Phoenix, I also really enjoyed. This is in the same universe, kind of like almost like a prequel to Who Fears Death, which I didn't like very much. And this is like the Nigerian superhero type of thing. I think it's probably not a good way of describing it, but that's kind of what I think about it. And the last one is Lagoon, which I think is the first thing I ever read by Okorafor, which is what it would be like if an alien made first contact in Lagos, Nigeria, and not in a Western country like the United States or like in the UK. And it was really good. Probably one of the structurally one of the weaker things I've read by her, but a fascinating look. And if you really want to read a first contact book that isn't in a Western white city, then Lagoon is a good one to pick up. And the last one I want to mention is an author that I bring up her books all the time in recommendation videos, and that is Sophia Scimitar. Her first book, A Stranger in Alondria, and then the companion novel, The Winged Histories. A Stranger in Alondria is about a man from a foreign country who goes to Alondria, a land of learning and books, and becomes involved in like a rebellion and I think a religious schism as well, and he's being haunted by a ghost. The Winged Histories is the novel about that rebellion and the schism in Alondria, and it follows four women who experience this rebellion and the war on different sides from different roles, and it's kind of like about the role of these women in history and exploring their stories. Both excellent novellas. I've said multiple times that A Stranger in Alondria is one of my favorite fantasy novels ever because it's a very beautifully written story, and the fact that it involves books and learning and language hits on all of my little buttons there. So that is what I wanted to recommend to you guys. A lot of authors, a lot of books, and I haven't gone into detail about pretty much any of them, but these are all books that I am really enthusiastic about and that I wanted to share with you. So if there's anything you think that I missed or you want to give me recommendations to about books by authors of color, please let me know because I always like to know that. I also have a long list of authors that I still need to try, and in fact I feel a little bit guilty that I haven't tried some of them and I can't talk about some of these authors in more depth. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you need to know anything about the Booktube SFF Awards and the Babble topics, I will leave links down below in the description, and I will talk to you again soon. And until then, bye.